I want to open a restaurant. I've retired.
Yeah.
I want to drop my life savings into a restaurant. And they've got no idea. That's
Yeah.
a great starting point because I probably didn't have that
Oh,
years
they,
ago.
they, they definitely didn't exist.
They'd jump on, say, Market Wine Stores or Market Bistro's website
Yeah.
and go, fuck, I'm going to need 80 grand.
Yeah. Morning, TK.
Hello, Peter.
Sorry to wake you up. When you're
Get up a bit earlier than that, mate, I tell you.
when you're ready, mate. That's okay. It's okay. It's funny, isn't it? 3 weeks ago I was late. Now I can just take the piss out of everyone. So
I haven't
How are you, mate?
that. Yeah, well, mate, I'm well.
That's good.
What about you?
I'm good. Yeah, no, I'm really good.
Bit of golf on the weekend?
Yeah, a little bit of golf.
Nice.
Not great. Not enough to talk about. So
Did you watch Full Swing?
I've watched 2 episodes. Yeah.
Binge watched it on Saturday.
How good is it?
How good is it?
It's amazing the access they get. It's really amazing the access they get.
It's amazing what that show has done for golf.
Yeah.
Same as the F1.
Sorry, we digress, but we are talking about Full Swing, the Netflix golf series, which is probably something that I'm addicted to, the game of golf, that is, badly. And it is really incredible what they can do in terms of, like, Formula One. You see that actual effect that show, Drive to Survive, had on Formula One in terms of numbers of people watching it, particularly in the US.
Yeah.
And golf in general, in terms of people watching golf, like it is not the most exciting sport on the planet. And things happen. You can, it's a 4-hour, 5-hour, 6-hour round sometimes. Or if you ask some guys that are playing on the weekend, it's a 9-hour round, so
Last
they can
charity golf
stay
day
at home.
I had at your place.
Yes, let's not talk about that. Wasn't my fault. But it is a tough one to get people to watch, and the demographic of people watching golf is very much at the older age groups, and so what this is going to do in terms of bringing new people to watching the game is just bloody incredible. Even if it's just they just watch the 4 majors or even the last round or whatever it may be. Like, it's pretty hard. Not a lot of people are going to sit there and watch 4 rounds of golf across 4 days. Because here, when they're playing in the US as well, you got to watch Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Depends if you watch it live or not.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That could be a whole.
No, well, how do you watch that? That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, golf's awesome, and it also sucks at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Today I thought we were going to talk about some stuff that's going on in hospitality in the industry in general. There's a few things, sort of probably more so about trends. We might throw a couple of grenades in there about a couple of questions about some things that are happening with regards to staff and maybe wages and that kind of stuff. So I thought we'd kick it off with the idea of trends. And I was sort of looking at some stuff over the weekend on particularly LinkedIn, where you kind of get these people who, creating content to get people to clicks and everything else. But one of the things that you're sort of I was looking at was about the trends for this year and what's happening in hospitality globally. And most of these things come out of the UK or come out of the US, but this one was actually written by an Aussie guy and talking about what's happening this year. And the big one that sort of comes up in a lot of these stories that people are writing is technology and how much that's having an impact on people's experience and also how things are happening in the restaurant game. And the number one thing for me that I've straight away with technology that I think about is QR codes, and that being on a table when you walk into a venue. Thoughts?
Why do I feel as though you just handed me a loaded gun?
Well,
Look, it will have its place, and it probably does now.
Yeah.
I was in the unfortunate situation where I had to go to Penrith for a family's funeral last year, and I was at a very, very big pub out there in the western suburb of Sydney, and this pub it made Sandstone Point Hotel look small. This joint was massive, and they had QR codes, and they had probably 6 or 7 bars and eating areas, and it really made it easy to order, because as somebody who hadn't been there before, I kind of didn't know which bar I had to go to. Can I get food from the bar? So I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with them, to be honest with you. But I was in Japan only a couple of months ago, and whether or not you like it or not, technology is coming at us full freight.
Yeah.
Like there was a burger joint in I'm not sure if it was Osaka or Narita, where there was no staff
At all.
So you got touchscreen and literally a staffless kitchen. So you had all your food being cooked by robots, QR code, but it was more like a There was a touch screen that you had to go.
Yeah.
Well, basically, but Macca's is gearing up for it right
Yeah,
now.
I was going to say, it's not far away.
No, and robots in restaurants was just a thing. Like,
Do you mean like just delivering food
Yeah.
or?
So you QR code at the table,
Yeah,
punch in your drinks, punch in your food, robot brings it to the table.
yeah.
And it's a bit of a novelty thing over here at the moment.
Yeah.
I know that there's some companies doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how successfully, but you can see the toe is being dipped in the water in Australia for that now.
Yeah, I reckon that stuff, it makes me nervous. I don't know. And it's not about,
Mate, there's driverless taxis in San Francisco now. I have this conversation on a daily basis. If whether or not it makes you nervous or not, that the whole
happening.
technology thing is coming at you
Yeah.
like a freight train.
and I don't consider myself to be a Luddite in any way, shape,
Yeah.
or form. And, you know, I've certainly embraced technology from the start of my career, I suppose. But there's just something about the lack of interaction that you get. And it's levels of restaurants, right? So like if I'm going out for a burger and I'm going to spend $10, I probably don't care if I've got to scan the QR code. What I do care about is the third party that's getting the 25 cents every time I do it, or $1.25, whatever it may be. Good on them, very clever. But there's that, you just can't have the same kind of experience when you're talking to a robot or you're scanning a code. No. And there's those subtle nuances that you're just going to miss without having a human there.
My ultimate fear in the restaurant game is that the fast casual market will not exist as we know it right now. And the top end market, I'm talking the super premium top end market, will flourish. It'll be 3 days a week and it'll be 500 a head to go there.
Do you reckon that's an option?
I just, the problem with it, right, and this is where you get into a very prickly topic regarding wages and basically the minimum wage. And I want to start this conversation by saying I'm all for people making more money, right? But you can't complain when prices of entry-level food goes up, or fuel goes up, or groceries go up, or anything that involves somebody working in that game earning entry-level pay. When that pay goes up, it's just a simple multiplier.
Yeah.
So the people who stock the shelves at Woolies, and I don't know anything about the grocery game, right? Ros White would be a really good person to get in.
Yeah.
Because this is a great conversation. Somebody that stocks the shelves is probably an entry-level worker getting paid the minimum wage, right?
Yep.
Now, their wage goes up by a couple of bucks an hour. So over a week, it might be $60. It might be, I don't know, 10 of them in the grocery shop. Suddenly, your lettuce goes from $1 to $1.20.
Yep.
Now, I get inflation. People could say that's inflation, but you can't complain about that happening. So what by driving the cost of labour up, it's bringing on that AI
knock-on effect
faster and faster and faster. Years ago when I was...
Oh, you're saying, sorry, just to clarify, you're saying so because of the wages going that way, people are looking at other alternatives as to how can we make this cheaper?
Yeah.
Right.
Because somebody like me every single time we open a restaurant, we risk the house of cards. Because I'm not telling you anything. A restaurant can take $50,000 a week away from you.
Yeah.
So the risk of people not coming or not being able to get staff or not being able to get reliable, good staff is terrifying. So and expensive, right? Because back in the day, my first restaurant was always your rent was the most expensive part of your business. Labour is now by
well and truly,
a country mile.
Yeah.
So all of that pressure on wages is driving AI into the restaurant space.
Yeah.
And it has been for years, but the technology is like they're tripling down. Like it's coming so fast. It's not even funny. And after spending a bit of time in the US last year, it's so prevalent over there.
Yeah.
As I said, like driverless taxis. You can take a 25-minute Uber ride and pay $18, or if it's surging, $30, or you can catch a driverless cab and it will cost you $2. What are you taking?
Yeah.
What about the poor taxi driver?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But
and that's always going to be the conversation, isn't it? It's like we're taking a job away from a human being, which is obviously not ideal and not where you want what you want to happen. But at the end of the day, I suppose the question is then, therefore, for the businesses, like how that business is there to make money.
Yep.
Profits for either themselves or for shareholders or whatever it may be. So what's the right decision for that business? And again, if you're looking purely at numbers and an Excel spreadsheet, you're not looking at names and responsibilities and kids' school fees and everything else that comes with that, it's probably a pretty quick decision for a lot of
Risk.
people. Yeah. And for those people, particularly those that aren't in the industry necessarily, like venture capitalists or whatever it may be, that own a group of restaurants, they don't actually care about Susan. They don't care about her
Publicly
at all.
listed companies,
Yeah.
which in particular in the US, there's a couple of massive groups who've got the monopoly on it.
Yeah.
And then you've got the standalone restaurants that are, the industry's in a very, very strange place at the moment, and the technology is improving on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The information that I can get just from our point of sale
Yeah.
or from our FPOS machine is terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm meeting with a guy tomorrow who his job is from point of sale is to decipher all of the data.
Yep.
And then he introduces an AI component to it that basically sends you a report,
Jesus.
a demographic of age, race, average check. It's unbelievable. The data you can
Firstborn's
get,
name. Well,
it's
yeah.
unbelievable.
And I think that's the bit where a lot of people get scared because
Yep.
it's like, because people share so much data without even thinking about it.
Just by tapping a card.
That's exactly right. It's
I don't know your name,
yeah,
but
but I've got your email address and your phone number.
your postcode, everything. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, mate, the QR code thing, I think it has its place, that's for sure. I know we've got it at Spiro to work really well. The hard bit is you've got expectations. As soon as you order,
Yeah.
and the controls away. You know what it's like. You've worked in a restaurant with a notepad, and the chef's like, slow the tables down
Yeah.
because we're in the shit.
Yeah. You're not going to do that when there's 100 people out there all with their phones just
We
going
get it
click,
on
click,
a
click,
weekly
click, click.
basis at Rice Boy in particular. Why don't you get more point of sales systems in the restaurant so you can alleviate the line? Why don't you get QR codes? Could you imagine that fucking kitchen if you had QR codes?
I mean, I can.
It would be
It'd
literally like
bedlam.
hell.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that people don't understand,
No.
that there is some. I mean, again, there'd be a way to funnel that in. You know.
And you just got to you can turn it off and on.
Right.
But then people are going, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like we see, we've got order online with Boca, and
For takeaway or
for takeaway pizza. And Harry in particular, mate, he's on the button every 20 minutes. Stop, start.
Oh, right.
Because his most important thing, which kudos to him, is the quality of that pizza.
Yeah.
So-
and the customers that are in the restaurant, do they take priority as well?
No,
or-
because no, because you're paying the same price,
Right.
right? And that's hard because my natural restaurant head says yes,
Yeah.
because they've got up off the couch to come. But
Yep.
all he wants to do is create beautiful pizza.
Yeah.
And make sure that the person who orders it has the best pizza they can. But then people ring and go, your online ordering system's not working.
Yeah.
It's like, because there's 35 fucking pizzas
Yeah.
on order right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
The oven can't fit that, so.
it's hard. So I suppose the short answer is there's definitely a place for it, I think.
Okay, so, yeah.
And you should embrace it because it's not going anywhere.
I don't think we need a choice,
No.
And that's the thing, like 4 years ago, we didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to go out, this is the only way you can do it. You got to do this. And I
And-
think that's the thing where those companies that develop that software at
Yeah.
that point in time,
I feel really sorry for places that you go out for breakfast. Breakfast predominant
yeah,
areas in the hospitality industry, in my opinion, it's a terrifying place to be right now because you still want to. We're not at the stage where people are happy to pay $30 for bacon and eggs, but these wage hikes that we're getting,
Yeah.
the increasing wage, that's where all the pressure's going right
Yeah.
now. And there will be a time where you're either happy to pay $30 for bacon and eggs, or there
you're
won't
not.
be a place to go for breakfast, except maybe in a hotel.
and it's interesting because I've had this conversation with a lot of people over a long period of time saying that I would never do breakfast ever again in terms of owning a venue that has a breakfast offering because it is so hard to make money. It's
Give me a
almost
calculator
impossible.
and
Yeah.
a whiteboard.
And
I'll
that's
show you how
it takes 2
ridiculous it
seconds,
is.
yeah, to show you what it costs to open that venue at that point in time, let alone if you're opening early
Yep.
and you're paying the extra surcharge for the hourly wage prior to 7 a.m. and everything else. Sundays, it's like, it's
Most people go for breakfast on a Sunday.
yeah, of course they do.
$40 an hour.
Which makes sense as well. You know, but that's the thing. It's like everything just sort of skyrockets. Okay, so QR codes. I'm not going to say yes or no, but basically it's that idea. It's going to happen.
You need to embrace it
Yeah,
because it's
okay.
coming. And I reckon, like most things, can you remember when Steve Jobs first introduced the iPod?
Yeah.
The-
Well,
and-
I was 4 probably.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe not.
But have a look at how fast technology has
Yeah.
gone from then. Yeah, now we've got phones
Yeah.
from Samsung that you can fold in half.
Yeah.
So we're not at the precipice of it.
Yeah.
We're a little bit in.
Yeah.
I reckon it's going to go.
It's.
I really wanted to. I wanted to hit a couple of trade shows this year because I reckon it'd be an interesting year to go and see it.
What's
But,
coming?
Yep. I reckon over the next 3 to 5 years there'll be some significant changes.
I think the other thing is that technology. If you look at the curve of technology in general, just
Yep.
since like the industrial age, you see, you want to talk about exponential growth. It is unbelievable. Like 100 years ago, we didn't even have cars.
Yep.
And it's like, what are we talking about now? We're talking about drones taking us to work. Or, I mean, that's kind of stuff. I mean, I remember having
The
I
Jetsons.
had a book. Yeah, well, this is a book as a kid. It was called, I think it was called Beyond 2000, which was that
Yeah.
name of that TV show as well.
It's
Well,
great,
this
loved it.
book was just bloody amazing. And the stuff that was in there, it was just like, oh my God, can you imagine if that ever happened? It's
Yeah.
like half of it's already happened. Half of it's already happened. It's like, can I sit at home, press a button, and food gets delivered to my door? Yes, I can.
I'll ask you one about it. Are you more focused on the process to get your food or the food itself? Because you've been to Japan a stack of times, I'm sure. But ramen in particular for years has been done like this, where you line up,
Press a button.
you go to a vending machine, you press a button, you get a
get
ticket.
your token,
There's
yeah.
one staff member, and you hand them the ticket. And
Yeah.
you sit in a booth, and then the ramen comes.
Yeah.
And
So in that situation, though, like that's all about the food.
Just talking about it now, I can taste the ramen that I had in Japan.
Right,
I
yeah.
couldn't give one fuck.
How it got
and
there.
And I get there could be an element of it that's what your expectations are, and that's the food. And when we talk ramen, that's where my head goes to.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's more accepting of that particular type of food.
And I think that's the thing is like different categories are going to be more accepting of technology in general.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good example because you sit there, you press the button, you get your token, you hand it over, it arrives. It almost like comes through a little window. You don't see anyone.
Yep.
You can be sitting in one of those little booths. It's just you.
Yep.
You press the button to get more whatever, and it just arrives. There's no interaction with people at all, or very minimal. Or you just see a hand come through the curtain, which is kind of creepy actually. But at the end of the day, the quality of the food.
$10 bowl of ramen.
Yeah.
That the last time I went to the particular restaurant, I can't even remember the name of it. I can vividly see it from the street. It was $10, and
Yeah.
it was the greatest bowl of ramen I've ever eaten in my life.
But how again? Then it's like, well, how do they do that? And it's volume.
Yeah.
Right. The only way to do that is by volume.
Volume and no minimum staff.
Yeah.
Because if you can keep your overheads down, our philosophy has been and always will be: sell it for what you have to, not what you can.
Yeah.
So then you can sell 2 or 3 times more. So the hard bit is when you hit labour at the moment, it's expensive, and that's only going to go one way. I just really feel for, in particular, my kids and their kids, where, geez, you want to be careful of what career you take now because there's going to be a bunch of them that's going to be obsolete. Yeah, even like doctors in particular. Like, you imagine the AI around doctors, where instead of one doctor only being able to diagnose shit that they've studied or seen before, where suddenly if there's an AI component of it, it's analysing every single medical book that's ever been written and giving you an
And it's
answer.
right
like
there
that.
and there's an
That's
answer.
crazy. That sort of technology is staggering.
Yeah. And that's the stuff where it's kind of scary as well. But if the result is going to be better,
Yep.
which you just think it would be, it's that 2 heads is better than 1. Is 200 heads better than 1? Of course it is.
Have you played with ChatGPT?
Only a little bit.
I
mean,
wonder what would happen if you said, ChatGPT, write me a wine list for a bistro. I'm going to do that
Christ.
today, and we'll talk about it next week.
yeah,
'Cause
actually,
there'd
that'd be super interesting.
Yeah. Because if you think about what it goes into, people just think, write a wine list, put your favourite wines down.
Yeah.
But you got to go region, price points. So there's so much to it, right?
And it's also, I mean,
And it's so
I
personal.
don't think it's there yet. I'd be interested to see, and
It'd spit you-
we should do that.
It'll spit you out a wine list.
Something will happen, exactly right. But it's also about access, it's about availability, it's about vintage, it's about all these things that sort of come down the line where, like if I'm writing a wine list, I'll write a wine list. And then by the time it gets listed, there's 487 changes to that
Yeah.
wine list because someone doesn't have that one product. That vintage has changed. The one that I want is no longer available. Do I still want that product? No, I've got to change that to something else now. Now I'm in a different region. Now I don't want that region. You know, so there's all those kind of nuances that I think that can't be replaced quickly. I hope not. Fuck.
That's what I mean,
It's been
right?
great knowing you guys. I just got replaced by a computer. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, potentially comments from the cloud. Thanks, Corey.
So,
But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's the thing. If they link in, what have you just done there? Oh, so it's telling you what to get.
Yeah. So
What did you type in?
I just said, write me a wine list for a bistro. And it says white wines, Chardonnay, New World, oaked and unoaked, Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, Pinot Gris from Italy, Riesling from Germany, Chenin Blanc from South Africa, red wines, Merlot from California, Cabernet from anywhere in France, Malbec from Argentina, Pinot from Oregon,
Cabernet from anywhere in France.
Shiraz from Australia, Rosé from California, or white Zinfandel.
Ugh. Oh.
Provence Rosé,
Yeah,
French
makes more
Champagne,
sense.
Italian Prosecco, Italian Moscato d'Asti for a dessert wine, or port from Portugal. Feel free to adjust the list based on preferences and availability. Cheers.
I'm out of a
10
job.
seconds. It's pretty terrifying, isn't it?
Well, that's frightening, but it is and it isn't because it's like that's so far away
I
from
know.
being finished.
It's
But
not a wine list,
But that took 2 seconds.
Yeah, but for somebody who's not, I mean, again, you've probably heard it more than me, but I want to open a restaurant. I've retired.
Yeah.
I want to drop my life savings into a restaurant. And they've got no idea. That's a great starting point because I probably didn't have that years ago.
That
So
definitely didn't
They'd
exist.
jump on, say, Market Wine Stores or Market Bistro's website
Yeah,
and go, fuck, I'm going to need 80 grand.
yeah.
You know?
That's for the first order. Sorry,
Yeah,
that was me.
exactly.
But I mean, that's the kind of thing where I mean, I wouldn't have even thought about that
No.
until just now, and that's the thing. I think, and same thing from the medical point of view. And let's talk to a doctor at some point in time to get their idea on this because I think that there's certain things that cannot be replaced.
No, I agree.
And
Probably shouldn't be replaced.
absolutely, and maybe from a medical point of view, I don't know, but I would imagine there's those subtleties of. Not everything looks the same. Not every body looks the same. Not every internal sort of system is the same for every single human being, although the base of it's right.
Yeah.
But, your kidney might be a centimetre off there. My kidney's ruined. No, liver probably, actually. Who am I kidding? So I think there's always going to be the eye test,
Yep.
that I think will always be involved in some way, shape or form, but maybe that's only 5%.
Hence the reason I say, in regards to fast casual restaurants, I don't think people say about Rice Boy there's no service, and there's no service for a reason, right?
Yeah.
It's literally we have inexperienced food runners that take the food from the kitchen to a table.
Yeah.
There's some people that complain about the lack of service there because they want that interaction, right? But
It's a different restaurant.
There's a reason why the food is as cheap as what it is. Would you?
Value for money.
It's value for money. Would you be against a robot delivering you food in Rice Boy or a Rice Boy scenario? Because I reckon what I would love to do is a Rice Boy style venue that is as automated as we can get apart from the kitchen. So I reckon there'd be an element of fun, and it's still probably, it'll be a bit of a novelty in Australia at the moment, but I reckon people are getting more and more receptive to it.
Who was it the other day? There was Brisbane Airport. International Airport, upstairs, there's one of the cafes up there has got a robot delivering food. Well, it's not, I don't even say it was a robot. It's just like, but why?
What was the name of that place we went to in Japan, Corey? Yeah. Robots. Izakaya, like a...
And it was all
place.
robots.
All robot. It was cool. We had fun.
And I think that's the thing. Again,
As a foreigner,
it's,
you go...
It's time and a place, right? It's like if you're in the mood for that, you're in the mood for that. And that's why if someone goes to Rice Boy and complains about the lack of service, they've probably missed the mark. It's probably not the restaurant for them.
Or the music's too loud.
Or the music's too loud, or whatever it may be. And I think that's the thing. It's like it's time and a place. Like if you don't know, that's where you ask, or you find out, or you get online, or you send an email, or whatever. But if you're after a romantic slow dinner where you have an entree and then you have some, a bit of a break, you drink some wine, you have a main course, you have some cheese, you have dessert, whatever. That's not the place.
No.
That's just not the place. So I think a bit of that has to go on the consumer at some point where they have to take responsibility for their choices. And it's like, without trying to be harsh, but it's like,
But can you imagine places like and this is the thing, like the places like Market Bistro, Boca, when the last pay rises, the minimum wage went up by a few bucks. We had a bunch of people media ring me and say, "What do you think about this?" And I'm like, if we were paying the minimum wages, we wouldn't have any staff. Like that's how tough it's been straight out of COVID on the Sunshine Coast.
Just to try and get people.
Yeah.
So they love the award.
Yeah, in particular in the kitchen, because it's like, I don't know really anybody that works for the minimum wage in the kitchen anymore, kitchen hands or whatever. That's slowly tightening up a bit now.
Yeah.
But places like Key and, these big restaurants in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, like I hope it doesn't happen, but I can just see that real pointy end of the market's going to be so extreme in a few years.
I think it's also, you can see it's already happened a little bit. There's certainly, and certainly less, I imagine, going into that space because everyone's talking about fast casual, so it's like, that's kind of where it's at because, again, it's about volume, it's about economies of scale. If we've got a restaurant that's doing 1,000 litres of fish stock or fish sauce a week, hypothetically, you're going to get a better deal than if you've got a restaurant using 1 litre of fish stock a week. So fish sauce, whatever, you know what I mean? A product. And I think that those economies of scale that you get from having a high volume restaurant are critical.
And I reckon that middle market is probably where it's really juicy at the moment.
What is middle market?
Like
Where's
Boca.
that?
Like Boca's probably a perfect hybrid. I'm talking about my world here. It's a hybrid between what Rice Boy is and what Market Bistro is. It's got a reasonable wine list. It's fast. It's casual. You can go in a pair of shorts. There's some outside seating. It's not overly expensive. You can still have a bowl of pasta for $30.
Yeah.
That I believe that middle market. If you look at trends in the States, it kind of doesn't exist. You're either paying super cheap street food prices, a taco or a hot dog or something, which is yum,
delicious,
or you go to the extreme pointy end, which is beyond fantastic.
Yeah.
Like,
but you're paying for that though as well.
Of course. You give me a city in America, and I'll give you a restaurant that'll blow your fucking socks off. Like,
but why there though? Is that purely wages as well? I mean, obviously you can get things done a lot cheaper. Rent's nowhere near what it is here.
But they're going up in price too. But,
yeah, right.
like the days of people thinking that Americans are getting paid $6 an hour to work in a restaurant, they're in the kitchen in particular, they're gone.
Yeah.
But there's always been not much middle market over there at all, and I can see a real swing towards that.
Yeah, okay.
You sort of got it in the touristy areas, like with Bubba Gump and places.
Oh yeah, those family restaurants. Yeah, and that's a style of restaurant we just don't even have in this country, do we? Really?
And they'll do 1,000 covers every service.
Yeah,
like, ridiculously busy. But a local neighbourhood bistro is pretty hard to find.
I'm just thinking. Last time I was in LA, we went to an amazing, tiny little restaurant there called Petit Trois, and that place it's basically an izakaya.
Yeah,
it's so small. It opens. I don't think you can book. No, I don't think you can. You got to line up pretty much. We were there really early just so we can get in. And it was one of like 4 lunches I think we had that day. But that place is exactly that. It's classic French bistro. It's not over the top. There's nothing avant-garde about it. You just sit down.
Dominic Cren's got one in San Fran. I think it's called Petit Cren. It's tiny little French bistro. But it would have to be under 20 seats too.
Well, I think I'm just trying to think. We sat at the bar. There's maybe 6 seats at the bar, 8 seats at the bar, maybe another 20 seats max. I mean, if it's 30 seats, that would be total. Yeah. And they just bang it out. Yeah. And it's bloody delicious. But what they also have is when you're there, it's pretty easy to spend money.
Yeah.
Because you have a glass of champagne to start, you have some oysters, then you have the cheese souffle, then you have the steak frite, and then you have a brulee or a Paris Brest or something to finish, and you're done. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff where it almost doesn't feel like you're spending a lot of money, but then at the end you're like, oh, that happened. And I like that dining as well, where you sort of sit there and it's like, it just sort of happened. And then at the end you're like, okay, I probably need to think about that next time. But it's a testament to the staff that are there as well, that they can read the room. And that's something that I don't think can be replaced. Yeah, great. That skill of a great waiter or a great server that's sitting there and they can read you, they know what you're doing, and they just get on board. And
it represents great value for money because you don't have to spend that much money, but you can. And I think that's been the success of Boca as well, because me and you could go in there and share a pizza and have a beer and walk out
and be done in 20 minutes or 25 minutes as well.
$15 each. Or you could go in there and we could graze for 2 hours and
Yeah.
spend 500.
And this is the last time I went into Boca. It was full. It was midweek. I can't remember what day of the week it was. It was midweek, and the demographic that was in there was so random. It was all over the place.
Yep.
You know, there was a big sort of group of looked like work people in there having lunch. There was a group of older ladies having a lunch. Then there was lots of twos and lots of fours. I think that's a really good mix when you can split it up like that, as opposed to this is the same person. We've just got 20 of the same blokes in dark pinstripe suits drinking Shiraz and eating oysters. You know, that's a dangerous sort of world to be in. Having that big demographic, I think, is critical. You mentioned data. And I think it's one of those things, again, like I said before, that people don't realise how much data they give to everyone. And in terms of shaping the decisions that we make in the industry, how often are you looking at this stuff?
Every day.
Every day. Well, in terms of what people are buying, how much they're spending, what's working on the menu, what's not.
In our business, data is everything for us. Like I can tell you, this week ending this date, last year, year before, year before. And every single week on a Wednesday, we produce what we call a revenue journal, which is based on last week's trade.
Yep.
And we marry it up against the same week the year before.
Year before, okay.
So there's data on what people are spending in the restaurants and how they're tracking.
Yep.
But then there's also digging deep into sales. What's the 20 best-selling dishes? Nearly every single Sunday, I send my assistant an email just saying, have a look at this for me, can you? So I'll get into the office and there'll be the top 20 best-selling dishes for RBs and rice boy or Boca, because I want to base changes on real-life data, not just assumptions. Because if you go into any of our kitchens or any kitchen and say, what's the biggest selling dish? They'll give you an answer. And I reckon 70% of the time it's not true. Yeah.
I remember I had that same conversation with a bar in Brisbane once. I was like, what's your number one selling product? And this is to let's say the 6 people there that were working there at the time. And they all had 6 different answers and none of them were right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even, actually one of them was right, but wrong, sort of right category, just wrong product. And the products that they were mentioning probably weren't even in the top 10.
Yeah.
Because it's almost so common they forget about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, you need to look at this. And for them, it was like, it all came about because we were looking at a contract for a spirit provider. So one of the big spirit companies wanted to contract them, so they only use their spirits in the speed rail, which is basically if you go and order like a house gin, vodka, whatever, it's going to be one of their products. And so it was those conversations that started. It was like, oh, we need to look at the data and see what we're selling. Yeah. And so that's where it came about. And it became very clear very quickly that the only thing that we needed to worry about in that place was vodka.
Yeah.
Because that's where all of the money was made.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll say that, not all of the money, but if you got the vodka right, if you got the right price point on the vodka, then you're good. Everything else is gravy kind of thing. It's like, that's how dominant this one product was. And I guess it'd be the same now. But.
Data is such a key.
Yeah.
And nearly every single point of sale system can give you that now.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be too super complex either. And that's the thing. It's about how you set it
Top
up.
Top 20 best-selling dishes. And if you look at that every week,
you
can make some pretty serious decisions based on that.
Just talking about trends, you've got that historical data year on year. Without getting into too much detail, is it still trending up? Is it kind of flat? Is it decreasing?
You're just talking about trade in general.
Trade in general, yeah.
We're up on last year, which is not something that I thought would happen.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying that because last year we've seen a little bit of normalisation from the year before because we just come out of COVID. Everyone
got pretty excited, yeah.
It was like I'd never seen anything like it before. There was this insatiable appetite for people to spend money.
Yeah.
And then last year it sort of plateaued out, in particular this time.
Right.
Like right now, because...
So after March, so the credit card bills have come in, everyone's
we had restaurant managers thinking we're going to go broke. And we'd just finished doing a big reno at Rice Boy upstairs. We just built RBs. We'd spent a couple of $1 million.
Yeah. And then a handbrake.
Like proper handbrake, and the key for me not to stick a rope around my neck and jump off a building was I pulled all the data out, and every single year since 2017, since we kicked this shit show off, we've had a dip. And it goes for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we've got Easter.
Yeah.
And then we trade our ass off at Easter. Oh, and then it gets quiet because it's winter. First 2, maybe 3 weeks of winter.
Winter is...
Oh, mate, Queensland, 15 degrees, people are like, fuck, we'll get hypothermic.
Put a
if we go
beanie
outside.
on, yeah.
So we see a very downward spiral into those first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then people find a cardigan,
Yeah.
and we've got normalised
That's okay
trade
again.
So it's a funny time on the Sunshine Coast between March and May. Right at the beginning of May,
Yeah.
and then but by the time you get halfway through May, when we're back
back
into
on,
normal
yeah.
territory. So, but the only reason I get comfortable about that is because of the data that not only we look at just for every single point of sale we have, but
Yeah.
it's purely because it's a part of our business to analyze that shit. And
Yeah.
it just makes us comfortable, and I can cash flow then. Like
Yeah.
I know.
You can project. Yeah.
I know, somebody comes to me out of one of the restaurants now and wants a new stove. It's
Yeah.
like, no.
Not happening. Yeah.
No, because we just need to be careful
Yeah.
and make sure as soon as we start to see it trending up again, we're okay.
Yeah.
But the data is critical.
Yeah.
And I encourage anybody that's, the hotel industry, that's the reason why they have specials, right?
Yeah.
Because they're looking at that same data. But for the
Absolutely.
restaurant game, I think a lot of people just make decisions off their hip. with it.
Anecdotally, yeah.
Yeah, rather than going, rather than sack all your staff,
Yeah.
plan some fucking holidays.
Yeah.
Like we would have 30 staff on holidays, and I suppose you look at that as a whole, we will go between,
30 out of how many?
between 450 and 520 staff. So
that's not
it's a
even
fucking lot.
That's a lot. That's 8%.
Yeah. And we've been planning that. I was sending emails out in August, September, October last year going holidays, February,
Prior
March.
to Christmas or no, after,
Yeah.
like now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
February and March. April,
'Cause you know it's gonna be
beginning of
quiet.
April, before Easter,
Yeah.
we need holidays. And now I'm sending him saying, May, just at the start of winter, who wants to go skiing? Go
Get it
now,
done,
book
yeah.
a holiday, book a
Yeah.
holiday, So at least you can you don't have to replace your full-time staff with casual labour when it's really quiet.
Yeah.
So if somebody can go on holidays and you don't have to replace them, suddenly you're not eating a shit ton of labour.
I think it's also just the idea of planning for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
It's going to happen.
And everyone needs a rest after Christmas too.
Yeah.
And then after Easter, everyone will need a rest.
Yeah.
So you're better off planning it now and making sure that all your managers are working off a diary and they're punching out that, those planning holidays.
The other thing is you're carrying the debt at the end of the day. You're carrying that liability of holiday pay. So no one wants to. God, I've heard some stories about businesses and how much liability they're carrying in holiday pay. It's frightening. And people are like, well, you should probably take a holiday. It's like, no, take a holiday now. Like, do not come in tomorrow for 3 weeks.
Please don't resign because I don't have the 20 grand to pay out the holiday pay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also a big thing. There's people that just don't take holidays, and it's like that's, everyone's different. I get that, but it's just not good.
We accrue it now. I pay it weekly.
Yeah.
So
it's there.
it saved us in COVID.
Yeah.
Because I had all the money there.
Yeah.
We don't touch.
Yeah.
And so that way, we were shut for 14 weeks.
Yeah.
So we could just bleed that out slowly. Everyone kept getting paid.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with casuals. People go poor casual, and I get poor casual. When it's quiet, you get chopped off the roster, but you get paid at the pointy end of the business. The hourly rate's higher than everybody else for a reason, right?
Yeah.
When it's really, really good, you ride the gravy train. When it's really, really bad, you lose hours.
Yeah.
And Eliza, my business partner, Rice Boy, and a few other restaurants, we set a budget, and she's like, I don't want to better that budget. She carries 50% of her, more than that, probably 70% of her labour is casual or permanent part-time.
Yeah.
Just so then she's got flex in her roster.
Yeah.
So times like this, people would just lean on hours.
Cull it down.
Hopefully they've planned holidays. They know that they're not getting chopped.
Yeah.
But they're just going to be a few hours short this week of where they normally are. And we've got that flex in the roster, which means that we don't eat shit and lose money as soon as we have a bit of a plateau in our weekly trade.
I also think it's also that idea of communicating it with the management team, then also down, so they then communicate to the staff. So the staff know this is what's happening. This is why we're going to be quiet. We know it's going to be quiet in a month's time. Everyone prepare for this, as opposed to, surprised you've got 4 hours this week as opposed to the 40 that you've been getting the week prior, which is always a challenge. And I know that's always these sort of almost like gypsy tricks trying to work out, right, well, who goes where, and that goes there, and it goes there, and it's
But
tough.
it's exactly what the question you just asked me about data. Like, it's so important.
Yeah.
And if you own a restaurant, you should really live and die by it.
Data is king.
Yeah.
It just is. It always has been.
And I was never really analytical.
Yeah.
I'm more of a person that needs to touch it and feel it.
Yeah.
Use my hands
kinesthetic
and,
kind of,
even I was really good at maths at school, but I needed to put it into real life
You needed
scenarios.
blocks.
Because if I'm just looking at numbers on a page, I'm like,
Yeah.
I failed school.
Yeah.
But if I look at it and try and put it in a real life scenario, it just makes complete sense
Absolutely,
to me. So
yeah.
I look at data and we make every decision of our businesses based on that.
And I think most should, if
Yeah,
they're not.
I agree.
Some advice there. The other thing I just wanted to talk about in terms of like trends is sustainability. The green options. Green practices, things that people are doing. Obviously, hospitality does produce a lot of waste. There's no ands or buts about that. Whether it be, just pure physical waste from packaging or whatever it may be. What are you seeing? Is there stuff that you guys are thinking about? What you can do from a business perspective that's better? Are people interested? Do people care? Do you care?
I care. But
A loaded question.
no, I just think until it gets cheaper,
Yeah.
it won't be an option because it's a simple multiplier.
Yeah.
So if I have a great deal of difficulty swallowing the whole eat local. You've got to be eating with low food miles and eat organic, and then you go to a supermarket, and I get it, but if local milk is $3 or $2 a litre more expensive than your Coles brand,
Yeah. Most
the
people.
lion's share of people,
Yeah.
as much as they like the idea, they'll take the cheapest possible option. Now, my household lives and dies by the motto of we've just got to eat less.
Yeah.
Like, unless I can have a really nice piece of steak off a trusted supplier that's grass fed, and I'd rather have tomato on toast for dinner. I'll have steak once a week or once a fortnight.
Yeah.
If we're short of cash and we're saving up for something, we'll just go
Trim
without.
it there, yeah.
Or have a salad for dinner. But then when we do have a steak night or a fish night, we'll eat really, really well.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, we do it where we can.
Yeah.
Like all of our straws are made from rice flour and they're biodegradable. We've made changes where we can,
Yeah.
but there's elements of it which people will not want to pay for. If I said to everybody, we can flick the solar on the battery on the wall and everything on the menu gets 15% more expensive, but we'll leave zero carbon footprint tonight because we'll run off our battery power. Then nobody would do it. Or,
Minimum.
and people just go, that's my responsibility. That's my job to do. But I've also got to feed and provide an income for everybody in this restaurant and do it in a way where it doesn't all go broke.
Yeah.
So
The commercial reality is different to the.
I think commercial reality needs to, it plays such a significant part in
Yeah.
it. And I would say this to any business owner, just do what you can. If you can alleviate plastic bottles, then alleviate
do it,
plastic
yeah.
bottles and go to recycled glass.
Yeah.
And again, technology's coming at us like a freight train. I reckon there's going to be so much stuff that happens in that space in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Because it is a loaded question because I know that it's really trendy at the moment.
Yeah.
And with that comes pressure to innovate.
Yeah.
That will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without doubt.
Looks like we're going to have to split this one in two because we're still talking and we haven't even got half the topics yet. So we'll come back.